is, we've talked endlessly about the quarterback issue, but is the quarterback issue the primary issue? And if it isn't, what is the biggest issue that faces the 49ers going into this year? Is it really Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Brandon Allen? Or is that just kind of the issue that really gets eyeballs and people listening and people engage, but really bubbling beneath the surface, there's another issue that we're not really talking about?
It kind of feels like the low-hanging fruit that you can always go to on an off day. I mean, an off season, what's today? Saturday, and get engagement. Like, just have a strong take. Trey Lance isn't good. Brock Purdy's great. Trey Lance is great. Brock Purdy isn't good. One strong take, any of those ways, and you get a conversation going, which is fun. You want to have a sports conversation. That's what it's all about. But, like, at a certain point, doesn't it feel like it's not the right conversation? Like, we do this every year. And really, shouldn't we be talking about the guy who picked this room, who put this room together, who pitted these young guys against each other, I'm not saying he got them hurt, but he can't keep them healthy, any of them.
Right.
So I feel like no one wants to have that conversation because, one, it doesn't get good engagement. Niner fans, like Kyle Shanahan has like an 80% approval rating. So people just take him out of the conversation and focus on the very young men battling it out to play quarterback, when really next year it could be Kirk Cousins or something. It's like, we're so focused on the game of musical chairs at quarterback when we don't want to talk about the person who's made it a game of musical chairs. Is I guess what I'm talking. It shouldn't be a game of musical chairs. He should tie himself to a quarterback.
Kyle is the biggest issue. Kyle is the biggest.
I do think, because the quarterback position is the biggest issue, but he made it that. He's made it that. It's year 7 of his tenure, and he can't find a solution. Maybe it's Brock, but he's also talking about Sam Darnold. He just seems so wishy-washy at this spot.
I think the biggest issue is the fact that they're a hamstring injury to Bosa away from, Austin Bryant and Kerry Hyder potentially on the edges. And it's like you spent all this money on Hargrave to up your D line, but man, you let 3 guys out the door in Ebukam, Amenahue, and Jordan Willis that were all starter caliber. I think one of the unspoken stories of last year is that the Niners had a bunch of different guys who could start on that D line. And now they've got Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant, Kerry Hyder, and I think the defensive end spot. I mean, I love Drake Jackson the way he's looked, but we don't know if Drake can do it for a full year. And Bosa's been healthy recently, but he had a lot of injuries, missed a lot of games at Ohio State. I just think that you could easily get into like the meat and potatoes of September, and all of a sudden be looking up and be like, well, wait a second, Bosa pulled a hammy and Drake's got a quad, and suddenly it's a reverse defensive line where you've got pass rush inside and very little off the edges. I'm a little concerned about that, to be honest.
It's a good concern. Let me just come back to the quarterback position for a second. I think what I'm trying to say, maybe I didn't express it well, is that the debate, who's better, Brock, Trey, Brock. I think the assumption that you're resting your debate on is that one of them is a franchise quarterback. Who is it? And I think the actual most likely outcome here is that neither one is a franchise quarterback. And again, fans don't want to have that conversation, so you just go back and forth. Oh, it's Trey, it's Brock. No, most likely it's neither. And what's crazy about this team with all this talent and Kyle Shanahan, the genius, is before they traded for McCaffrey last year, they were averaging 19 points per game. So you talked about a hamstring injury to Bosa away. What about an ankle injury to McCaffrey away? What happens to this offense if McCaffrey misses 2 months? I mean, we saw it last year. It wasn't good. So I feel like now the quarterbacks would be exposed. What would Brock Purdy look like without Christian McCaffrey? Or Trey Lance? We saw Trey Lance without McCaffrey last year. It wasn't good. What would Brock Purdy look like? That's what I want to know.
It's interesting because I kind of lean the other way that it's not that they don't have any franchise quarterback. I think we're making a huge deal about the quarterbacks. I think it's very likely that they have multiple franchise quarterbacks. I don't have that much pessimism. I think there's too much pessimism on Darnold and Lance, and too much skepticism on what Purdy's already done. I really think if you look at quarterback play in the NFL, this is par for the course. Young quarterbacks don't win, and older quarterbacks get better with age. And I mean, I'm looking at every Hall of Fame quarterback in the last 30 years. Basically, there's been like 30 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. There's like 2 of them that started hot, like Marino and like Roethlisberger, if he makes the Hall of Fame, maybe Russell Wilson. Obviously, Mahomes started really fast. But I just think we're so clouded by Mahomes that we're not seeing that the real story at quarterback is that they all start slow. And like people are losing their mind. I've heard people go, Trey Lance is a bust. Really? He's 2-2 with like 5 touchdowns and 3 picks in a couple of years. Sam Darnold is a bust. He'll never be good. Sam Darnold is 25. Now, granted, he wasn't good with the Jets and was only slightly better with the Panthers, but I can name 20 quarterbacks that didn't do squat until, I mean, Kurt Warner was a Hall of Famer, didn't even make it to the NFL till 28. And there's 5, 6, 7 other quarterbacks that I can think of. Steve Young was 11 and like 23 with all kinds of turnovers at the beginning. So I don't know. I just think it's really hard to play quarterback in the NFL, and that we judge these young quarterbacks too soon. And it's like, we've already decided, or not, lots of people have decided Darnold can't play and will never play. Trey Lance will never make it. And it's not a Niner thing only. Zach Wilson. You say Zach Wilson to NFL fans, oh, bust, total bust. He can't play. These guys all can play, I think, and it's just a matter of time. So, okay. I mean, that's
just... Can I just say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just, like, look, I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm just saying, like, if there were a bet in Vegas and you had to put $10,000 on it, do the 49ers have a franchise quarterback on their team? I'm betting no. I just feel like that's the safer bet here. I mean, you look at the Shanahan's, plural, track record developing quarterbacks. They've never developed a franchise quarterback. And the Niners haven't acquired a franchise quarterback, the Yorks, since they ran off Jeff Garcia. So I'm just saying the odds, just playing the odds. I'm thinking probably not 1, let alone 2. And again, like, so if you
you're
assume
not expecting
that they have
the quarter. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you assume they have 2 franchise quarterbacks in the room, then you love Kyle Shanahan. There's no issue with Kyle Shanahan. But if you think there are none, and this quarterback carousel competition is just a distraction from the fact that he doesn't have a quarterback, then that's the conversation. But I guess you got to decide what you think.
Well, okay. So, I mean, the quarterback that they had at the end of last year was Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy didn't lose a game and had great numbers. And maybe those numbers are impacted by recency. And, maybe the league's going to adjust to him and he won't be able to adjust back. But that's a projection. What's happening in real time is the guy's got 13 touchdowns and 4 picks and a 6-0 record and 2 playoff wins under his belt. I mean, that's what
I think that proves that he's going to be a franchise quarterback, even with the surgery. That proves
no. But I think it's to me, if I've got to lean, he's the guy or he's not the guy. I feel like I've got more evidence to point to he's the guy than not the guy.